It's time for Recipe of the Day. I think of chicken paprikash as goulash's chickeny cousin, and it is perfect for a cold winter night, just the ultimate comfort food. It's a staple of Hungarian cuisine, and it takes juicy chicken thighs and braises them in a sauce made out of chicken stock, tomato paste, plenty of paprika, and sour cream. There's some onions in there, and sometimes there's sweet bell peppers as well. My recipe doesn't have the peppers, but it's a rich, silky sauce when it's finished, and it is amazing on egg noodles or dumplings or even rice or just like in a bowl with some delicious crusty bread, you know? So I'll say that the recipe I have for you today calls for either bone-in or boneless chicken thighs. It's actually not going to affect the recipe at all. The boneless chicken thighs do cook in less time, but we really want the flavors to get into the sauce and the sauce to get into the chicken, and we want the sauce to simmer and thicken. And so in the end, it's just going to be the same amount of time. Now, can you use chicken breast? I want to say no, because it's just not going to be as good, but you absolutely can. You're just going to reduce the cooking time a little bit so that it doesn't overcook, because when chicken breast meat gets overcooked, it gets dry taste in your mouth, dry feeling, whereas chicken thighs are just a little bit more resilient. I think you could tell I was having trouble coming up with a word there, but resilient is perfect. Chicken thighs are more resilient than chicken breast, and that's what I love about them. Okay, the other thing that I'll tell you about is the paprika. If you can get your hands on a good quality Hungarian paprika or even paprika paste, that is wonderful here, but it is not necessary. Just the paprika from the grocery store is going to be fine. Now, you want the sweet paprika, which is often just labeled as paprika here. So if you buy something that just says paprika, it's going to be the sweet paprika. If you want to use something spicy, you can buy the stuff called hot paprika. That's going to be a much spicier sauce. You could do half and half with that. I wouldn't recommend the smoked paprika here. It's just a different flavor profile. I love it. I love it. It's just not quite right here. Maybe like a little pinch in there would be nice, but that's not really the traditional flavor. Okay, let's dive into this recipe. Like I said, you can use bone-in or boneless chicken thighs, but you really want them to be skinless because this is a braised dish and that skin is going to be in there and it's not going to be crisping up. It's just going to be kind of rubbery. So if your chicken has come with the skin on, you need to remove it, which is very easy to do with chicken thighs. It'll just like pluck right off if you give it a pull. If you need to, use some clean kitchen scissors to just snip it where it is still attached to the chicken, and then it will come off. Okay. Now we are doing 2.5 pounds of chicken thighs here. That's going to be a different number depending on whether they are bone-in or boneless. It's going to be about 4 or 5 if they have the bone in. It'll be 6 or 8 if they are boneless, but really you can choose however many you need, up to like 5 chicken thighs with a bone in and about 8 of the boneless. Nothing about the recipe has to change. Then you're going to get out a large Dutch oven or stock pot, and you're adding 2 tablespoons of cooking oil, olive oil, grapeseed oil, vegetable oil, whatever you like. 2 tablespoons, heating it until it's very hot over medium-high heat. And then you're adding your chicken thighs and you're browning them on all sides, like 3 to 4 minutes per side. Now, if your pot isn't big enough that those thighs have enough space around them, which is going to depend on how many you have, you're going to want to do this in batches. So do half of them, then remove them, then do the other half. And you're just browning them. You're not cooking them through. Okay. Once that's done, take the chicken thighs out of the pot, put them on a plate, set that aside, and turn the heat down to medium. Now, if a lot of fat has accumulated in the pan, which can happen because some fat can come out of the chicken thighs, you want to discard all but 2 tablespoons of that. And then you're going to add a big onion that you have halved and thinly sliced to that pot, and you're cooking and stirring occasionally until it's softened and just starting to brown lightly at the edges, about 4 minutes. Then you're going to stir in a tablespoon of flour, a tablespoon of tomato paste, a tablespoon of paprika, a teaspoon of salt, and a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. Cook and stir that for about 3 minutes. You're just trying to develop a little bit of flavor on that tomato paste, but you don't want it to burn. Like if it starts to brown even, then you have done enough, and you're going to then add in 1.5 cups of low or no sodium chicken stock. If yours does have sodium, then you would have just wanted to reduce the salt earlier, and then you can always add more salt to taste later, right? So stir in the 1.5 cups of chicken stock and also 3/4 of a cup of sour cream. And I'm going to tell you, it's important that you use regular, like full fat sour cream here, not reduced fat, low fat, no fat, or like Greek yogurt or anything like that, because we're going to be simmering the sauce for quite a while. And there was tomato in there, which is a bit acidic, and then tomato paste, and then the heat, it can curdle. It will even possibly curdle with the full fat sour cream. I have definitely had Hungarian Paprikashes before where the sauce has this like tiny little, like almost mini little pebbled bit to it. You can't taste it, you can't feel it, but like I've definitely seen that before. But it shouldn't do that if you're using the full fat sour cream. I mean, if it does do that, it's perfectly safe, but it shouldn't do that, or it's less likely to do that if you use the full fat sour cream. If you use one of the other things, it will almost definitely do that and probably be like bigger clumps. Still, totally safe, just looks a little bit weird. And you know what? I'm going to tell you at the end what to do if you are using one of those sour cream substitutes. Basically, at this point, you would not add it. You would proceed with the recipe without adding that in so that you're not boiling it for this whole time or simmering it for this whole time, and then we'll add it in at the end. But for now, I'm assuming that you're using the full fat sour cream. It is going in 3/4 of a cup of it with the 1.5 cups of chicken stock, and you're going to stir to bring that all together. And then bring that mixture up to a simmer, and you add your seared chicken thighs back into the pot. Put the lid on the pot and turn the heat down to low. It's going to simmer gently with the lid on for 15 minutes. Then take the lid off and simmer it until the chicken is cooked through to 165 degrees Fahrenheit on an instant read thermometer, or if you cut into a piece so it's no longer pink inside, no longer pink near the bone. If you're using the bone in, it's going to be about 15 minutes. Now, if you were using the chicken breasts, you would simmer it with the lid on for only about 7 minutes, and then take the lid off and continue to cook until they're cooked through. You really want more of the time to be with the lid off so that the sauce has a chance to kind of thicken a little bit. It's going to reduce through evaporation. Okay, so once the chicken is cooked, you are done. You take the chicken out, put it on your bed of cooked egg noodles, spoon some sauce over top. I will say, if you were using the low-fat sour cream, like I mentioned, or Greek yogurt or anything like that, what you would do is take the chicken out of the pot, take it off the heat for a good 5 minutes, letting it kind of cool down just a little bit, and then spoon the sour cream or yogurt into it. Then stir it really quickly as you're adding it, and then you would spoon that over the chicken. Okay, that is traditional Hungarian chicken paprikash. I will put the link to this recipe in the show notes for today's episode, or you can head to cookthestory.com/ROTD and get it there. Everything there is arranged by date, so it's helpful to know that today is February 12th of 2025. While you are over there, you can also subscribe to this show on your phone. Go to cookthestory.com/ROTD, and across the top, you will see the buttons for Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Amazon Music. You just tap on one of those, and then it'll take you right to the show, and you can click on subscribe or follow. You can leave a rating and a review. That is great. The other way that you can subscribe to this podcast is if you open your favorite podcast app on your phone and search for Recipe of the Day. You will find me. I am everywhere. I'm Christine Pittman from cookthestory.com, thecookful.com, the all-new chicken cookbook, and from this podcast, Recipe of the Day. I hope you have a great day. Let's get cooking.